Hey guys, subscribe for daily content, and if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got a really interesting knife review / knife overview to share with you guys. This beautiful looking knife is the Mr.Mr. Designs Aeon. So I have become increasingly picky over time, as you would expect anybody in my position. I mean, anybody in any position in the knife world, that's all you do. You become more and more picky. So opportunities that I have where I see a knife that I think I would probably like that, and then I get it and I think, wow, I really like this, and then I carry and use it and go, oh my God, I love this. Those are increasingly more rare. This knife is in an oh my God, I love this category. And it feels so good to say that. If you watch my content all the time, that doesn't have, like, I get excited about things, but as far as like my end, excitement goes, I love this knife, and it feels good to really truly love something after carrying it. There's so many good elements here. A couple of little quirky things, we'll talk about it, but just to let you know right at the beginning, this is an awesome knife. It is a premium knife. It's a pretty expensive knife. After carrying and using it and just studying it, I feel like the price is pretty fair, but I'll link it down in the description. Those are not affiliate links. They're just regular links that go right to his website, so you can check that out. I always mispronounce the designer's name. It's Mihai Rusnik, and I'm so sorry. I know that I got that wrong, but that's the designer. I've reviewed a lot of Mr.Mr. designs in the past, and some of them are cooler than others. This is my favorite. This is my favorite that he has ever released. I think it's awesome. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me. Let's get a measurement. Thank you so much for not doing a minimalist design and making it small. Like he made a full-size knife. More so, I think, actually. Overall length of this guy, the Aeon, 8¼ inches. Very good. Blade length, 3.65 inches. Cutting edge, also almost exactly 3.6. I mean, it's, yeah, really beautiful. Look at this. There's a boring simplicity and there's an interesting simplicity, right? I've handled a bajillion boring, simplistic knives. This has all of the interesting stuff, and we'll cover it. Let's do some size comparisons. Any custom scales you find in this section can be found down in the description under Original Goat and others. Up against the 8010 and the 8020.5, you can see here it's definitely a full-size knife. More cutting edge than either of these knives, especially the 8020.5. Let's put it up against the Spyderco PM2 and the Spyderco Para 3. Almost exactly the same overall length as the PM2, but way more cutting edge. I mean, look at this. It's nuts. The blade to handle ratio on this is awesome, if that's a big deal to you. I understand some people, prefer the ergonomic excessive, the extra comfort in the ergonomic lines, but this is still plenty good. Let's put it up against, finally, the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue and the Hogue Deca. Okay. How is the action on this knife? This knife is manufactured by Bestech, and Bestech does a very, very good job. The action is really good. You do need to watch out if you're somebody who doesn't, if you like to disengage your lock like me. This is a nested liner lock, which we'll come back to. Disengagement is easy given that it does peek out over the show side scale. Nice touch. Thank you for doing that. Most of the time, designers trying to complete this minimalist look, they just close this area off because they're like, I want it to look consistent. Look at this. We've done it here and it looks just fine. You don't have to close this area off on your minimalist design. Just make it accessible. Thank you. It's accessible. It's great. If you're somebody who likes to disengage with one hand like me, and you like the blade to stop on your fingernail, most of us prefer to not have a sharpened edge stop on your fingernail. That is what's going to happen here, but it is, of course, your fingernail and not your flesh. So you should be okay, but you should also be cognizant of that. You can turn it slightly sideways and get your finger out of the way at 90 degrees, or you can simply hold onto it like a normal person and do that. But we like to experience the action. So you're probably like me. There is no, here's where the detent ball contacts the face of the blade, right here. There is no double, it's not even close to double clutch, right? So that's great. There's only one means of deployment because the vast majority of the blade is hidden entirely within the handle, which is really cool because we managed to get some visually impressive blade height out of this. Usually when we do that, usually when the blade is housed within the handle completely, you flip the blade out and it's like, yeah, why is it not tall? And it looks weird, right? No, not here. Nice, tall, flat ground blade. Looks great. Almost impossibly disappears within the handle. Really cool. One means of deployment. A small, a subtle, low-profile flipper tab. Do not press the push button this because it's a little bit pointy. If you dedicate to light switching it is perfectly satisfying. It operates exactly the way that you would expect. It's very good. The detent strength, I think, is perfect. Very, very nice. I like that a lot. If you're a fan of flippers, especially low profile flippers, this is going to operate exactly the way that you want it to. Let's go ahead and do carry profile. Thickness up against the Spyderco PM2 and the Para 3. This is an awesome full-size knife to carry because it's got such a consistent height all the way through. There's no surprises. You put it in your pocket and you go, that carries exactly like I would expect. It's also a nice way to carry an 8 1/4 inch knife that feels like a full-size knife but does not carry like your typical 8 1/4 inch knife. For example, the Ritter Hogue, even in G10, carries like a big fat fatty compared to this guy. It just feels so much more bulky, right? This carries super compact for the size, and it was a very, very enjoyable experience in a number of ways, but just in terms of the amount of room it takes up in your pocket and how comfortable it is to carry, I had a great experience. I mean, it, folded up is, I would say, maybe 2/3 of an inch longer than the Spyderco Para 3, maybe close to 1/2 inch, but height-wise, just nothing there, and it's also pretty darn thin, which we're going to do next. Thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3, it's actually slightly thinner, even with the frame, which is really, really cool. Let's go ahead and weigh it. So what are we looking at for materials? We're looking at titanium that has been milled out for weight reduction. We have a steel liner, so it's a steel liner lock, so it's not a titanium liner lock, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be. It would have been really cool to see that, but it's also completely and totally unnecessary. And then we have this, of course, like I said, nested completely into the titanium, which is very impressive. We have S90V steel. It's hard for me to find a range where Bestech is showcasing what they're hardening their S90V to. However, with their M390 and their, I think it was MagnaCut here, their numbers were very impressive. It would blow my mind to find out that they are not hardening their S90V to at least 59 to 61. Now, I don't take these things out and extensively use them for weeks and weeks and weeks at a time because we have people who do really, really superior testing. They have the proper HRC testing equipment, and they are able to do controlled testing and tell us, right? But I would venture to guess that Bestech's minimum range for this stuff is 59 to 61, which is absolutely fine for S90V. It'll have fantastic edge retention. I did notice that just cutting through simple stuff like cardboard, the edge did not fatigue one bit, so pretty good sign that it's heat treated correctly. It would shock me if Bestech is not heat treating the S90V correctly. So S90V for the blade steel, titanium, nested steel liner. We have a milled titanium pocket clip, and then interesting, no backspacer. This whole area is actually a part of the show side scale, which is neat. It doesn't necessarily have to be a separate spacer. It's one less part on your knife, and it looks really, really awesome. I mean, it looks essentially seamless, so very cool. So the weight on this guy, 4 ounces, maybe it's because my subconscious remembered from the unboxing. Pretty darn good for an 8 1/4 inch full tie knife. 3.65 inch blade. Can't complain. The blade is very, very thin, which means the balance is actually a ways back. So, note that you are getting a super performance oriented. Why am I talking like an idiot? A super performance oriented. That's all the time, Metal Complex. You always talk like an idiot. Fair enough. Fair enough. I left myself open there. I'll put my hands behind my back. You can throw a pie right in my face. I'll take it. But yeah, the blade is thin. It is very performance oriented, not just in terms of the steel, but in terms of the geometry and the general blade shape and the grind. This is a joy to cut with. So you're giving up a little bit here. I think it would be an interesting idea to make the same knife in carbon fiber. You're going to have to adjust the price, but it'll balance it out a little better. Still though, this does not carry heavy in any way. Let's go ahead and do a hardware check. That should be interesting, right? Get out my tools. As per usual, my tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use on this channel, or the pinned comment. It's right there. Where is the hardware? So on this side, there's nothing. It doesn't show anything. It's so cool. So cool to look at. You have the adjustment head over here, and then we have one screw in the pocket clip, which goes right through into this big block of material that's attached, the show side scale. Unbelievably simple to take apart. But you have all the integrity in the world, given that you have a titanium, chunk of material here that is creating that integrity between the two pieces. Really awesome. Stupid simple. Stupid simple. I love that. The fewer the steps, the better. We'll get out a T8 bit here. The pivot. Better be a T8. Don't you ruin this for me. This is about me. It's about me and my joy and my experience. I'm kidding. But T8. Look at this. How hard is this? I mean, come on. This is the kind of stuff that I'm like, everything should be like this. It's so simple. The whole freaking knife, blade, liner, 2 pieces of scales. Said that dumb. Pivot, pocket clip screw, pocket clip, and the bearings. That's it. It's so great. I get so excited when it's a good design, which it is. We'll talk about it. Minimalist in terms of the disassembly process, the ease of maintenance, right? The safety of the maintenance. Win. All he does is win. Awesome. Love it. Okay. Blade stock thickness. We got to do that. I'm going to have to get a hold of it in the open position. This is a thin blade. This is an intentionally thin and performance-oriented blade. So the blade stock thickness is there a taper? It's an immediate taper. It's a fully flat ground blade. We have to grab it back here where there's actually flat, where it says S90V to get an accurate measurement. 87 thousandths. I cannot stress enough, guys. This blade, it's like a lightsaber. It's ready to cut. Definitely. Meat and potatoes time. Beautiful. Look at this. We didn't just do a rectangle, right? There's lazy minimalist designs, and there are well thought out minimalist designs. Now, these minimalist designs all have their own little drawbacks, right? It's not perfect, but in terms of creating a minimalist, aesthetically pleasing, like a successful aesthetic minimalist design, this is the platinum standard. This is what we look for. No visible hardware. Still personality. We're going simple, straightforward, but classy, right? We got flat, we got a couple of little perimeter lines with the milling, and then we've got some nice milling in here, just sort of diagonal lines. Nice to the touch too. Doesn't necessarily create any super meaningful traction, but you can touch it and feel it. It feels really, really good. Edges are knocked down. They look sharp, but they're not. Edges are knocked down. No contouring. On this knife, usually I'm like, oh, I want to contour it. I kind of like it this way. I feel like adding the contouring would have made it a little bit weird. I kind of like the way that this looks. Very subtle. Mr.Mr. Designs logo right there, and S90V on the other side. Take a note. Other companies, other brands. I get that you want to put your logos on stuff, and I think that's understandable. Look at this. Itty bitty, just a little tiny, just like, hey, it's me, I'm here, I did this. Hey, fine, I get it, right? S90V, that's it. But we are right here, you're barely even aware that that's there. Beautiful hand rub satin finish blade, which is optional, $20 more. The standard blade is a tumbled finish, which will look very, very good, right? We have a nice, simple titanium frame. Please consider doing a few different colors. The gray looks great, and I feel like a lot of people will opt for gray, but how beautiful in a vibrant blue or purple, green, bronze. Ooh, any color would really look good. Beautiful like this, though. Majestic ergonomics. Majestic in the sense that you feel completely and totally free. Probably within an inch, right, of the back end, full 4-finger grip. You have a full inch to move around. Now, there's no guard at all. Please excuse my washing machine upstairs. It loves to be noisy when I'm trying to record. It's an inanimate object. Doesn't care if I'm yelling at it. Anyways, there's stuff falling down because of I'm pounding on the desk. But anyways, ergonomically very, very comfortable. There's no guard. You really have to be cognizant because there's not a lot of room before you, whoops, on the edge. And the edge is sharp. The edge is ready to cut. This has already done a little bit of work. The edge has shown no change whatsoever. It is still an absolute cutting machine. Very good. Cutting paper doesn't really prove much other than the factory edge and geometry resistance cutting something like paper, but even cutting something thicker like styrofoam or cardboard or whatever, it goes right through it. Right? Just geometry. if you're going to be using this knife dedicated to using it, and you're going to have to sharpen it a lot, you need to pay attention to the plunge grind, because that's not going to make a lot of people super duper happy. If you're like me and you casually use knives and you have multiple in your rotation, you're not sharpening as much, you're doing more touching up, and you're doing more light duty tasks, it's not going to affect you hardly at all. So you just have to ask yourself what you need and how much a smile or running your stones or whatever into the frame is going to bother you. Because at some point in your sharpening experience, you're going to be running into that, right? I feel like there's probably a couple of different ways this could have been done, but I outside of exactly like this, because there's still a choil there, right? Any other way of doing it probably pulls away from the goal, the aesthetic goal of this knife. It's S90V, so if you're using this casually, you're not going to need to put stones on this very often. But if you're using it a lot and it's your only knife, or it's in a small rotation, right, then yeah, and you're going to end up with a little smile back here, right? Now, if that doesn't bother you, or some people tell me they only sharpen back to a certain percentage and they say whatever, right? Well, then there you go. Everybody's got a different way of doing it, so consider that how it affects you. The blade profile is absolutely gorgeous. There is a little bevel that's very consistent all the way out to the tip, which is really nice and very pointy. Super duper slicey. Just that perfect flat ground, fully flat ground drop point blade. There's something really special about it. And as much as I love swedges and how they offer, you know, this three-dimensional, you know, aesthetic to the knife, and they give it a little bit more personality, a little more pop, there's something about a straightforward, fully flat ground blade that is also extremely appealing in its own way. The jimping extends out pretty well. It complements the final position for the index finger. I think we probably could have gone about an inch of jimping, maybe an inch and a half, right, out to about here. But that's okay. It's not a deal breaker for me. Like I said, there's no backspacer. It's just a chunk of titanium. There's also no lanyard anything, which I'm fine with. If you love lanyards, sorry. They did do the texturing on the clip, which is nice. It looks really good. Very, very good. The pocket clip is, of course, nested into the titanium, as it should be, because there's only one screw, so it is captive. We have a stop pin that is located actually internally. It's attached to the blade, so it runs on channels on either side of the titanium, right? So on this side, it's actually contacting titanium. On this side, you can actually see the liner going all the way up. So it is contacting steel on one side. So steel on one side and the steel contact between the lock bar and the blade. So you're going to have that longevity. Steel on steel contact is always better than steel on titanium, or especially titanium on titanium. That doesn't happen very often. But yeah, you're set up for, you know, a good long run with this knife, as long as you use it like a knife and not a sledgehammer. There is absolutely no lock stick at all. The total amount of contact, if we can see it in there, is pretty good. Plenty of engagement, right? This is a titanium liner lock with a thin liner lock and a thin blade. And wouldn't you know it, it's done correctly. It doesn't disengage. Who would have guessed, right? No surprise there. No blade play up, down, left, or right. Like I said, no lock stick. There is no pivot lash. Beautifully consistent in here, especially if you have the lock disengaged and the detent balls off the face of the blade. Nice click into the closed position. And then we have, I haven't had to adjust this at all, absolutely perfect centering. Really nice. I usually hate the hyper minimalist stuff. I hate it because everybody does the same thing. We got a new minimalist design, okay? We went with, I feel like the rectangle is the most optimal minimalist shape. It's very long, has 4 corners, and is a rectangle. For the blade, we did what we did is we took a triangle and we stretched it out. So it's pointy and one edge is sharp, and combining the two superior shapes, triangle and rectangle, and making them long, we feel that we've created the perfect minimalist product to accentuate your whatever, right? Cool, hate it, seen it a million times. This is so much cooler. This is a minimalist design designed by a knife person, not somebody doing their best to create something that they can market to people on sort of the exterior of the knife world who they're just trying to buy some simple knife-shaped object, which we see all too often with companies who really haven't been around very long, right? I tend to avoid those companies. Sometimes it's just minimalism and the aesthetics and just needs a chance to evolve. But Mr. has much more of an eye, for design and has been doing this for a while. Mihai. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name again. It just looks cool. It looks like it was designed by somebody who gets it, who knows better. And again, it's a full-size knife. Beautiful ratios. Beautiful. This was a joy to carry and use. I love it. I'm going to keep this. This is mine. I'm not giving it away. Unless you want it back, of course. Actually, they didn't clarify. If you want it back, I'll give it back to you. I really want this. So if you want it back, then I'll buy it. But I really like this. Now, coming down to the price, this is a Bestech made premium Chinese titanium and S90V liner lock, right? So comparing apples to apples, there are other companies out there making similar knives with similar materials, similar quality control. Artisan Cutlery always comes to mind with their S90V. They do great work. Very, very great work at about $200 to $225, right? This knife at base costs $290, $310 if you have the hand rub satin finish blade. Is that fair? Well, Artisan Cutlery, a lot of those knives that they pump out of those price points are in-house designs, and they are mass producing them. This is a designer working with an OEM who is known to really charge a lot of money for projects like these. It's not like, Mr.Mr. is getting 100% of the total cost that you're paying for the knife. No, massive chunk of it is being taken by Bestech, and then there's a small chunk left over for him. And it's also a small batch, which means there's not a lot of room to make money on volume. So the price is a little more understandable. That being said, I think it would have felt about perfect at $275. So $290 doesn't make me mad, but admittedly, this knife grew on me massively. So you have to take what I'm saying and understand that I carried this knife and I started to love it so much that the price tag, I softened up on the price tag, right? I just want to be honest about that. As that happens with knives that you really, really love. You find ways to justify the price tag, even though everything I'm saying about the small projects and the small batch and working with an OEM like Bestech, it's all true, right? But this is a particular case where I really, really loved this. Thought I would like it, ended up loving it. So, I don't think this will be a knife for everybody, but generally speaking, I think this is a wonderful premium production EDC knife, very stylish. It does exactly what it's trying to do, and it is a great cutting tool at the end of the day. So, price is a little higher than what I would like it to be, but I still generally will recommend this to people. This is a recommendable knife. I think it's very, very good. I think that Mr. Design should be very proud of this one. This is excellent. It is a standout product in their line, and it's a standout product in the 2025 knife world. That's going to be it today. Please let me keep this. Please tell me what I'm supposed to do with this. I really like it. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.